Hello, my name is Wildstag, and thank you for tuning in to another book rant. Today I'm going to be covering this book, Hollow Kingdom, by Kira Jane Buxton. This book is relatively new. First paperback edition, July 2020, originally published in hardcover and ebook in August 2019. This printing in 2021. I bought it at the start of 2022 while visiting San Diego, some family at the New Year's. This book is a urban fantasy zombie style story, to put it simply. The core story is that humans are effectively zombies. How it spreads is left for the reader to discover, but the book is about a domesticated crow named ST that is living with his owner when he notices his owner is unusual. His eye falls out, he's scratching at things, he is being unintelligent, more so than even when his owner is drunk. This results in eventually ST hiding away the pet dog in the house and locking away the owner. ST goes out. As he explores, he finds that this is a common occurrence, that throughout Seattle, humans have become strange. He also has difficulties interacting with the other corvids in the area because apparently they're not really kind to other crows and ravens that just act human. This book is strange in that it's kind of split into 3 different stories mixed together, all centered around this one main character. So, firstly, the story is one of those kind of entering a magical world kind of stories where the main character has an inn and needs to learn how this newer world works. And for ST, that is communicating with other animals, not just birds, but other animals, and learning how those networks work and getting used to being part of that avian community that he had separated himself, distanced himself from while domesticated. The other conflict is a more human one. ST wanders around Seattle with his owner's dog, but he realizes there are a lot of dogs and pets in general that are still locked inside their owners' homes, whether their owners are there or not. And what this means for ST is that he wants to help them get free. So without humans and with a lot of other dangers on these streets, ST needs to find a way to get these animals free so they don't starve to death. And then the third is more directly violent in conflict, and that is ST, these ravens, these crows, they're not the only groups of animals roaming the streets of Seattle. Animals from the zoo have gotten out and are behaving in a very wild manner. And then from outside Seattle, from outside the suburbs, wolves, bears, mountain lions are starting to come in because they have easy prey that doesn't really know how to defend itself from them. And then lastly, we have the zombies. It's not a pathogen-based undead. It's like a Gaia theory kind of one. The crux of the story, and the part that I disliked completely, was a very misanthropic one. The way the story works is that Gaia, effectively, just nature, rejected humans because humans had turned away from nature. Humans had turned away from this interconnectedness that all other animals seem to share and became basically only able to communicate with each other, and even that not fully. Humans became too tribal and reclusive from the rest of nature and destructive towards the rest of nature, such that the earth effectively turned itself on humans. How this worked was that humans had become addicted to technology, and technology was what those zombies craved, to the point where they would crush and tear anything that got in their way. At one point, ST sees a smartphone attached to like a pole in the middle of the street with hordes of these zombies clawing at it or just sitting underneath it. And the phone, it's just backlit. There's nothing on it, but it is simply on, and the zombies are attracted to it. He sees cryptic messages about throw away your phones or things like that. But humans are an adaptive species, and we try to survive any threat that comes upon us. And some humans spontaneously evolve to be more bestial. There's a moment in this story where there's narration involving a hospital and a baby spontaneously starts climbing on the walls. It seems to be almost arachnid in its ability to do so. As chaos erupts around the rest of these humans, they start realizing that something is happening to them. Some of them end up becoming kind of a cross between spiders and humans, and you begin to see more of these mutated humans throughout the rest of the story. I said it's misanthropic, but that is kind of wrong in a way. The story is, at its core, a technology bad, nature good kind of story. But it's not specifically anti-human in that sense. So, for example, one of the situations that happens is that ST, learning about this interconnectedness in nature, learns about a phenomena that allows these animals to communicate with each other, even across species, family, order, borders. So there's a section here on page 207. Don't shackle yourself to an ideal. Always go with the tide. Listen for guidance. Creativity is not a uniquely human trait. Creativity is everywhere, in the barb of every feather and each audacious sapling. To err is what's human. To what? To err. Humans marked their distinction with their mistakes. A creature can be heartbreakingly powerful and loving while also being a destroyer of worlds. You are mistaken in thinking they are the only rational animals. What you are looking at is just a chapter in their story, one they narrated. Perhaps. He paused as we soared over the silent bodies of two apartment complexes that had collapsed onto one another, their guts glistening and gray. Perhaps there is still a whole book for us, many chapters ahead. You must evolve, float with the tide. Trust that she knows what she is doing. We must listen to her through Aura, Echo, and Web. Oneida has spoken. So Aura, Echo, and Web are three different, very internet-like means of communication between different animals within different environments. These animals are able to communicate in a very human manner in this story. As they say, creativity is not human, it is part of all nature, and so certain aspects of what we consider humanity are beloved by nature in this story, but technology and the over-reliance on it is problematic to nature. And so it is kind of boring in that technology bad sense, but it is a good story underneath all of that. And each of those conflicts blends into the next one. So at first, there's having to learn how to work with other animals, which leads into working with those animals and those connections you've made to free those trapped domesticated animals, which blends into using those connections to fight back the wild animals, and then finally connecting all of the animals that call Seattle home and finding ways to combat these new humans, these perversions against nature. They've mutated in such a way that all of nature tries to reject it. There are elements of cooperation between animals, but there are elements of chaos between them as well. Ultimately, the conflict that carries the climax of the story is the mutant humans versus the rest of nature. And it ends in a very beautiful and touching way. And there's also some other steps, some chapters throughout the story I felt were really interesting because they're not generally connected to the rest of the story. But they do show what is happening throughout the rest of the world. Chapter 26 is in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates. It says, as dictated by a young camel named Dawood. Here sand swallows my city. It gathers in my eyelashes. They are long like spiders. Sand scratches on the windows of buildings it wants to get in. So much wants to get out. If you know the nature of sand like me, then you know it will not kneel for anyone. There is no fighting it. Sand is a silent lesson on the impermanence of things. They called us ships of the desert. We are made of sand, bold hump to rubbery lip. If the shape-shifting dunes call us, we follow them with a blustering haboob inside our humps. Feasting on thorny shrubs, the sand sea offers sidewinders at our feet. Chapter 27, following, set in Bangkok, Thailand. The low rumblings of an urban elephant herd. This one is written in almost a poetic way. It is just one page front and back, and it reads, walk with us, our numbers grow and we gather, family woven together like nest of a cave swift lit, both wispy, fragile, and life's one keeper. We move together through time and the tuk-tuk streets of once busy Bangkok, through grave sight of bus and motorbike and carbon cough, where we once begged under neon lights, while a noose caressed our necks. We are great gray clouds who remind you how to unfold. Now that the air has remembered herself, our trunks sway in honor of ocean's pulse, like the shaggy rain tree who shivers under our footprint and knows that you are as fresh as orchids first bloom. We will push aside car and continent to free you. Lighten the burden you must learn to shed. Like skin of snake and winter leaf, we use our bodies to splinter glass and street stalls and wood, denting metal and stripping wire of its power, violent acts of devotion, to free those who dream of water's promise and the smell of lotus flower. Dog and cat and horse and mouse fly from their cages, and we swallow miles, our ears velvet instruments. We carry your chain-linked burdens, trampling the noose that caressed your neck, holding your beautiful story in our bones. So that story interrupts the rest of the story, but shows what is going on in the rest of the world. This pandemic of technology seems to be global. I don't recall how much it's shown in like the outback of Australia or parts of Africa or South America where humans aren't reliant on technology. If it affects all of humanity equally, regardless of their dependence on technology, that may be something that comes in the next book. I'm not certain I'll get around to reading it. The first book, I think, is good as a standalone story as is. I just don't think it's necessary. And I'm not entirely certain I would want to continue it anyway. I'm not a fan of technology is anti-nature, or even that humans are anti-nature. I don't think misanthropy is necessarily good in story. It is very touching at times. It's wholesome. It's dangerous. It's exciting. There are moments of great risk and great reward. And ultimately, it does do that job of character entering that other world very well. That other world is convincing. The overall narrative is challenging at times. It's a fun book though, and you may enjoy it. So, Hollow Kingdom, your opinion may differ from mine. My name is Wildstag, and thank you for tuning in to another book rant.